Tagalog grammar, mas plus adjective. In this lesson, we're focusing on how to make comparisons in Tagalog using the word mas. We'll cover the correct way to compare people and objects so you can express differences simply and accurately. Let's get started. Today, you will learn the meaning and usage of mas, comparison structures, including basic patterns, comparing singular and plural nouns, comparing people and using the word KAYSA, which means than, comparisons using KAYSA SA and KAYSA KAY, and finally, comparing with Tagalog pronouns and specific names of people. Introduction to the word mas. What is mas in Tagalog? Mas means more and functions exactly like the ER suffix in English. We use it to compare two people or things to show which one has more of a specific quality. Look at these examples of mas as more. Mas mahal, meaning more expensive. Mas maganda, more beautiful. Mas mahirap, more difficult. Mas mahalaga, more important. Now, look at mas as the ER suffix. Mas mura, meaning cheaper. Mas pangit, uglier. Mas madali, easier. Mas matangkad, taller. In every case, if you need to say more or those ER adjectives, start your phrase with mas plus a Tagalog adjective. Let's move on to how to form Tagalog comparatives. Pattern 1 is the basic structure. This is the most common way to make comparisons in Filipino. The formula is simple: mas plus adjective. If you want to modify a quality, this is where you start. Here are 4 common examples using that basic structure. Mas matalino, smarter. Mas matamis, sweeter. Mas maliit, smaller. Mas malaki, bigger. Mas masaya, meaning more joyful or happier. Mas sikat, more popular or more famous. Mas pogi, more handsome. Mas matalino, more intelligent or smarter. Now for pattern 2, comparing singular common nouns. We use this specifically when comparing a thing, object, or place. You already know the first part, mas plus adjective. To complete the thought, you simply add a marker ang followed by the noun. The full pattern is mas plus adjective plus ang plus thing. Just a quick note, unlike in English, you must include the marker ang before the singular noun. That is simply how Tagalog grammar functions. There is no direct translation for it in this context. So the best way to learn it is to accept it at face value. Ang always marks the thing you're talking about. This pattern identifies exactly which object possesses more of that quality. Again, the pattern is mas adjective ang thing. Let's see it in action. Mas maliit ang ibon, meaning the bird is smaller. Next, mas madali ang Tagalog. Tagalog is easier. Notice how ang works here. Ang ibon. It points directly to the bird and highlights it as a singular subject of the phrase. The same goes for ang Tagalog. It focuses on that one specific language. 2 more examples of this pattern. Mas maasim ang kalamansi, meaning kalamansi is more sour. Mas masarap ang ice cream. Ice cream is more delicious. Again, ang acts as the spotlight, focusing the comparison on that one specific thing which is more or better than the rest. Now for pattern 3, comparing plural common nouns. To make a noun plural in Tagalog, we use the marker ang mga. The pattern is mas plus adjective plus ang mga plus things. A quick tip on mga, It is pronounced like ma-nga, mga. It's the universal pluralizer in Tagalog. Simply place it before the noun to indicate there is more than one. Ang mga. Let's look at these examples. Mas malalaki ang mga elepante, meaning the elephants are bigger. Mas matatalino ang mga robot. Robots are more intelligent. You'll notice the adjectives changed here. In Tagalog, ma-adjectives are pluralized by repeating the first syllable of the root word. For example, malaki becomes malalaki. Note that this only applies to adjectives starting with ma. Non-ma adjectives like payat or tuyo don't change their form when the subject is plural. We instead say mas tuyo plus ang mga plus noun. We'll talk more about it later. Here are two more examples of plural comparisons. Mas magagalang ang mga estudyante, meaning the students are more polite. Notice magalang becomes magagalang because mga estudyante. Students is plural. Next, we have mas mabibigat ang mga baboy. Pigs are heavier. Mabigat becomes mabibigat. Now for pattern 4, comparing singular proper nouns. When you're comparing a specific person to someone else, we swap the marker ang for si. So the pattern is mas plus adjective plus si plus the person's name. Just like ang pointed to a specific thing, the word si is the dedicated marker that highlights a specific individual in the comparison. Don't be confused. Si is used for a single person's name like si Mike, si Ray, si Jerry. It has no direct English translation. Let's look at how this sounds with names in sentences. Mas maganda si Thalia, meaning Thalia is prettier. Next, mas sikat si Leo Yuning. Leo Yuning is more popular. Notice that si is always placed directly before the person's name to identify them as the subject of the sentence. Two more examples. Mas payat si Trina. Trina is slimmer. Mas madaldal si Elle. Elle is more talkative. Whether the adjective starts with ma or not, the structure for the person's name remains the same. Si plus the name. Next is pattern 5, comparing plural proper nouns. When comparing two or more specific people, we use the marker SINA. Think of SINA as the plural version of si. While si points to one person, SINA is used to group names together as the subject of your comparison. The pattern is mas plus adjective plus SINA plus people's names. Here's how that looks in practice. Mas matatangkad sina Tamim at Emmy. Mas matatangkad sina Tamim at Emmy, meaning Tamim and Emmy are taller. Next, mas pogi sina Henry at Alex. Henry and Alex are more handsome. Note that we use at to mean and when joining the names. Two more examples. Mas matatapang sina Greg at Tom, meaning Greg and Tom are braver. Mas tahimik sina David at Alice. David and Alice are quieter. Notice again that because we are talking about multiple people, the ma adjectives are also pluralized. Our next pattern is used for comparing singular nouns using the Tagalog word KAYSA, which translates to than in English, KAYSA. Use KAYSA sa when comparing one object or place to another singular noun. The structure to follow is mas plus adjective plus ang plus subject plus KAYSA sa plus object of comparison. Note that sa is required here because the object you are comparing it to is a singular common noun. For example, mas matamis ang mansanas kaysa sa mangga, meaning the apple is sweeter than the mango. In this sentence, the mansanas is the subject, and we're comparing its sweetness to the mangga. Let's break it down using our pattern. First, we have mas matamis, which means sweeter. This is the quality we are comparing. Next is ang mansanas, or the apple. This is our singular subject, which is the one we are actually describing. Then we add KAYSA SA, which functions as our connector, meaning than. Finally, we have mangga. This is the singular object that the apple is being compared to. Altogether, it's mas adjective ang subject kaysa sa object of comparison. Got it? Okay, let's now learn comparing plural nouns. When we're comparing a group of objects to another group, we use KAYSA sa mga. KAYSA sa mga. So the pattern is mas plus adjective plus ang mga plus subjects plus KAYSA sa mga plus objects of comparison. Take this example. Mas malalaki ang mga balyena kaysa sa mga pating. Mas malalaki ang mga balyena kaysa sa mga pating. Meaning, whales are bigger than sharks. Here we use mga in both parts of the sentence because both the subjects, the whales, and the objects they are compared to, the sharks, are plural. Here's another example. Mas maninipis ang mga dyaryo kaysa sa mga magazine. Mas maninipis ang mga dyaryo kaysa sa mga magazine. Meaning, newspapers are thinner than magazines. Notice the adjectives again. Maninipis. It's the plural form of manipis, meaning thin. Since we are comparing multiple newspapers to multiple magazines, we use the plural adjective and the kaysa sa mga connector to keep the sentence grammatically balanced. Now, let's study pattern 8. When your comparison involves a specific person being compared to another named individual, use KAYSA KAY. KAYSA KAY. So the formula is mas plus adjective plus si plus singular subject plus KAYSA KAY plus the person compared to. Just as we used si to introduce our singular subject, we use KAY before the second name to show exactly who they are being compared to. It's a dedicated marker for a singular proper name. Here's a simple example. Mas mabilis si Roger kaysa kay John. Mas mabilis si Roger kaysa kay John. Meaning, Roger is faster than John. In this sentence, si Roger is the person we are describing, and kaysa kay John establishes that John is the point of comparison. Next example, mas magaling si Maris kaysa kay Kath. Mas magaling si Maris kaysa kay Kath, meaning Maris is better than Kath. Again, the structure remains consistent. Si for the first person and KAYSA KAY for the second. Next, we have pattern 9. When you're comparing one group of people to another specific group, use the connector KAYSA KINA. KAYSA KINA. So the pattern is mas plus adjective plus SINA plus group 1 plus KAYSA KINA plus group 2 or the group being compared to. Because we are dealing with plural subjects, remember that you must use the pluralized form of the adjective to keep the sentence grammatically correct. Let's see how it works with multiple names. Mas makukulit sina Ryzen at Riley kaysa kina RJ at Ann. Mas makukulit sina Ryzen at Riley kaysa kina RJ at Ann. Meaning, Ryzen and Riley are naughtier than RJ and Ann. Here, Sina introduces our first group, Ryzen and Riley, and KAYSA KINA connects them to the second group, RJ and Ann. Note how makulit becomes makukulit to match the plural subjects. Our second example is, mas malulusog sina Cindy at Kyla kaysa kina Christine at Ron. Mas malulusog sina Cindy at Kyla kaysa kina Christine at Ron. Cindy and Kyla are healthier than Christine and Ron. Again, we pluralize the adjective malusog so it becomes malulusog, and use KAYSA KINA to bridge the two groups of people. Next is pattern 10, comparing possessions. In this structure, the pronoun comes directly after the noun being described to show ownership. The pattern is mas plus adjective plus ang plus noun plus possessive pronoun. This is the most common way to say things like my house is bigger or your car is faster in Tagalog. Before we look at examples, let's have a quick review of the Tagalog possessive pronouns you'll need. First is ko, meaning my, ko. Next, mo, mo. Your, niya, niya. His or her, natin, natin. Meaning our, including the person you're talking to. Namin, namin, namin. It also means our but excluding the person you're talking to. And the last one is nila, nila, their. Let's put them into the pattern. Notice how the pronouns stay tucked right behind the noun. Mas mahaba ang buhok ko. Mas mahaba ang buhok ko, meaning my hair is longer. Mas mahaba ang buhok mo. Mas mahaba ang buhok mo. Your hair is longer. Mas mahaba ang buhok niya. Mas mahaba ang buhok niya. His or her hair is longer. Mas mahahaba ang mga buhok nila. Mas mahahaba ang mga buhok nila. Their hair is longer. In the last example, notice we used the plural adjective mahahaba and the marker mga because we are talking about the hair of multiple people. Now we're taking it a step further with pattern 11. This structure is used to compare your possession directly against someone else's. Basically, mine versus yours. The pattern is mas plus adjective plus ang plus noun plus possessive pronoun plus KAYSA plus the sa pronoun. You're essentially combining the possessive pattern we just learned with a new set of pronouns to show the comparison. To use this pattern, you need the sa pronouns. These are used to indicate direction or in this case, the object of the comparison. When used with KAYSA, they represent than mine, than yours, and so on. First, we have sa akin, meaning mine. Sa iyo, sayo. Yours, sa kanya, his or hers. Sa atin, ours, including the listener. Sa amin. It also means ours but excluding the listener. And the last one is sa kanila, theirs. Let's see how it is when we compare hair length. Example 1. Mas mahaba ang buhok ko kaysa sayo. Mas mahaba ang buhok ko kaysa sayo. Meaning, my hair is longer than yours. Let's break the sentence down so you can see exactly how the two different pronouns work together. Mas mahaba, the quality, meaning longer. Ang buhok ko. This uses the possessive pronoun ko to establish the subject, my hair. Next, kaysa sayo. This uses the sa pronoun sa iyo to act as the point of comparison, meaning than yours. Example 2. Mas mahaba ang buhok mo kaysa sa kanya. Mas mahaba ang buhok mo kaysa sa kanya. Meaning, your hair is longer than hers. Ang buhok mo, here the possessive pronoun mo defines the subject as your hair. Kaysa sa kanya, the sa pronoun sa kanya completes the comparison by pointing to hers. In both examples, you are using the first pronoun to show ownership and the second sa pronoun to represent the person you are comparing against. Here are more examples for this pattern. Mas mahaba ang buhok niya kaysa sa akin. Her hair is longer than mine. Mas mahahaba ang mga buhok nila kaysa sa atin. Their hair is longer than ours. Pattern 12 covers comparing possessions with another person. Use this when you're comparing one person's property directly against another person's property. The pattern is mas plus adjective plus ang plus noun plus ni, person's name, plus KAYSA KAY plus person 2. Here's an example. Mas mahaba ang buhok ni Ria kaysa kay Michelle. Mas mahaba ang buhok ni Ria kaysa kay Michelle. Meaning, Ria's hair is longer than Michelle's. Why do we use ni and kay? Ni Ria. We use the marker ni to show that the hair belongs to Ria. Kaysa kay Michelle. We use kay because we are comparing Ria's hair to another specific person, Michelle. In this structure, you don't need to repeat the word hair or buhok twice. The use of kay at the end automatically implies you are comparing the same object to the second person. Pattern 13 is for comparing possessions between groups. This is how you compare something owned by two or more people against something owned by another specific group. The pattern is mas plus adjective plus ang mga plus noun plus nina, people's name, plus KAYSA KINA plus group 2 people. Let's break down this example. Mas mahahaba ang mga buhok nina Gabriela at Ara kaysa kina Tess at Maria. Mas mahahaba ang mga buhok nina Gabriela at Ara kaysa kina Tess at Maria. Gabriela and Ara's hair is longer than Tess and Maria's. Mas mahaba. We use the pluralized adjective because we are talking about the hair of multiple people. Ang mga buhok. We add mga because there are multiple subjects, the hair of several people. Nina, Gabriela at Ara. We use nina, which is the plural of ni, to show joint ownership of the first group. Kaysa kina Tess at Maria. We use kina, which is the plural form of kay, to mark the second group as the point of comparison. Just like the previous pattern, the word hair isn't repeated, but kina tells the listener exactly who the comparison is directed toward. Here's another important grammar point. Mixing names and pronouns in comparisons. This is a crucial point for natural-sounding Tagalog. Whether you start with a pronoun or a name, the word following KAYSA must always match the noun or pronoun that immediately follows it. Look at this example. Mas mahaba ang buhok ko kaysa kay Ann. Mas mahaba ang buhok ko kaysa kay Ann. My hair is longer than Ann's. Pronoun versus name. In this sentence, the subject has the word ko, which is a pronoun. However, we use kay because we are comparing it to a specific person's name, which is Ann. The rule is simple. KAYSA doesn't care about how the sentence started. It only cares about what is coming next. If a name follows, use kay for singular or kina for plural. If a pronoun follows, use the sa pronouns that you learned, like sayo, sa kanya, sa kanila, etc. Next, we have the name versus name comparison. As a rule, the than part or KAYSA must always adapt to the specific person or group that follows it. Take a look at this example. Mas mahaba ang buhok ni Ann kaysa kay Kakay. Mas mahaba ang buhok ni Ann kaysa kay Kakay. Meaning, Ann's hair is longer than Kakay's. Note the double name pattern. This is the classic way to compare two individuals. You use ni for the first person to show ownership of the hair, and kay for the second person to mark them as the point of comparison. Even though you're comparing two people, the markers are different because of their roles in the sentence. Ni is for the owner, and kay is for the person being compared against. Finally, we'll look at the pronoun versus pronoun comparison. Just like the previous patterns, the word following kaysa must match the pronoun type that follows it. Here's an example for singular pronoun. Mas mahaba ang buhok niya kaysa sa'yo. Mas mahaba ang buhok niya kaysa sa'yo. Meaning, her hair is longer than yours. Another important Tagalog grammar points for you to remember are these. First, you can never use the short possessive pronouns ko, mo, and niya after the word sa. So saying kaysa ko, kaysa mo, or kaysa niya is grammatically incorrect. The second one is the standalone rule. When you use kaysa sa, you must use the standalone or the sa pronouns like akin, iyo, kanya. This is why we say kaysa sa iyo instead of kaysa sa mo. It keeps the comparison grammatically sound and clear. Now, let's compare groups using pronouns. When both sides of the comparison refer to multiple people, we simply combine the plural adjective pattern with our pronoun structure. For example, mas mahahaba ang buhok nila kaysa sa atin, meaning their hair is longer than ours. The rule is simple. Use the plural form of the ma-adjective like mahahaba, since the subjects nila meaning their and the plural point of comparison atin, which means ours, are both plural. To wrap up today's lesson, remember that Tagalog comparison is all about the relationship between the subjects. Use mas plus your adjective to start the comparison. Choose your marker based on who or what you're comparing. Si and sina for people or subjects and ang or ang mga for objects. When adding than, ensure your KAYSA connector matches the person or thing that follows it. KAYSA sa for objects, KAYSA KAY or KAYSA KINA for names, and KAYSA sa plus standalone pronoun for pronouns. Practice these patterns by describing things in your own home. The more you use these certain patterns, the more natural they will feel. If you want a detailed lesson on the pluralization of Tagalog adjectives, I have a dedicated video covering exactly how to repeat those syllables correctly. You can find the link in the description below, or simply click the card appearing on the screen right now to head over to that tutorial. I also want to invite you to visit my website talktomeintagalog.com for more Filipino lessons. Salamat po for joining me today. See you in the next lesson.